thought the password was Red Sox suck. A one-time verification code, send text. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, we're here at our next installment of the off-season here, and the desk is still here, and they haven't repossessed the laptop, so that's all good news. So in this episode, we're going to kind of focus on Juan Soto. I'm sure you heard, now the rumors starting to percolate that the Yankees front office and the Padres front office have had some preliminary communications there, so we'll kind of focus on Juan Soto. He's someone like, you always hear his name come all the time, and sure, every Yankee fan always wants him. I'm always this reserved, especially when you always mention a big name player. It's like, oh yeah, trade for him, just like that. I try to keep it realistic here, but it seems this time could possibly be a situation where the Yankees might be able to obtain him, just mainly because the Padres looks like they are desperate to cut some payroll there, so that would be a kind of way to do him, because Soto is still under arbitration, but he's going to get a boatload of money next year starting spring, and I'm sure the Padres would rather forego that and have another team pay that, so it'd be at least give them some motivation to want to trade him. So we'll dive into our stuff, and of course now we do have our World Series determined and underway. Of course, the Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks, a little bit unlikely there, but we're going to kind of dive into a little bit. This is why it's maybe not exactly the best matchup for baseball. Not saying it can't be exciting. Of course, game was exciting with a walk-off home run, but just in terms of two teams where one team has only 90 wins, the other team only has 84 wins, and you look at all the 100-win teams that got knocked out kind of early on and said, is this really good for the sport? So we'll kind of do a deep dive in all that stuff. And also just with Yankee news, focus on Sean Casey. He won't be back for the Yankees as a hitting coach, which, I don't think is as big a deal, but we'll look into that a little bit more. Of course, got a couple of managers. We'll just at least mention, it's not really non-Yankee related retiring. Of course, Tito Francona, again, the longtime Yankee rival when he was with the Red Sox, but of course, the last couple of years he was with the Cleveland Guardians. And when he was with the Guardians, then we were able to beat him. So that's, we liked Tito towards the end there, but hated him originally when he was beating us when he was with the Red Sox. And of course, Dusty Baker also calling quits. So we'll just kind of do a quick mention on that with the whole thing. And of course, a couple of Yankees are up, for grabs, which this is going to happen when they bought up Austin Wells last season. Ben Rovette and Higgy are supposedly now on the trading block. So we'll kind of look into that and what possibilities could go there. So get us all that good stuff. But before we do, and as always, make sure you subscribe to the audio version of this podcast show, whatever you want to call it, wherever you get your favorite podcast. There are installments, little rants, things that are shorter episodes, maybe only 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 13 minutes that only available if you're a podcast subscriber. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Sign up, like it, subscribe, and get notified new episodes go up there. And make sure, if you haven't done it already, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, subscribe. And if you want to interact a little bit, you got comments or anything. If you like the purple Yankee hat, you don't like the purple Yankee hat, throw a comment in there. And of course, you're watching this on TV, go to the internet. You catch the show there. Maybe get a little earlier and watch it on TV, a little excitement, going to preview there. Go to YouTube, Section 420 Talkin Yankees. So let's get into the episode. So leading off, we have Sean Casey. I know Sean Casey's not a leadoff hitter, but we'll get into the story of him not returning for the Yankees in the 2024 season. As you remember, towards the middle, I think it was towards almost after the halfway point of the season, he replaced Dylan Lawson there as the hitting coach, as the offense was absolutely anemic, and of course Judge wasn't around with the whole toe injury like that. And really for Sean Casey, didn't really do actually a ton to really improve the offense. And just looked at some of the numbers. So before he took over, the Yankee team batting average was .231, and they were averaging 4.4 runs a game. And then, of course, once Sean Casey took over and afterwards, the team batting average actually dropped 10 points to .221, so 10 points worse, and then less runs per game at 3.8 there. So batting average went down and runs per game went down by 1. So really didn't much improve there. Now, he announced this on his podcast, The Mayor's Office. Just said it wasn't really the right time. And now, reading into it a little further, it seemed like also, a couple of years ago, he did go through a divorce and he has 2 daughters. And I guess, they have a visitation thing back and forth with his wife. So he only gets to see the kids 50% of the time. So again, and probably 50% of that time he's on the road with the Yankees. So I guess he just wanted to be around just to get more opportunities to be with his daughter, with his family. I'm sure it could be that, or this could be like he just looks at this Yankee roster and is like, throws his hands up. I don't know what to do with these guys. And it's going to be pretty much more or less the same group coming back in here. So, if he wasn't able to do anything to like turn Stanton around or turn, Rizzo around or turn DJ around. Now, obviously, Rizzo had the concussion problem, so you kind of give him an excuse. But really, DJ and Stanton, and of course, there's some of the younger guys like Oswaldo Cabrera never really got it going for the Yankees. Volpe, good rookie season, but again, just a little bit over 200, and this, the whole lineup up and down, there's pretty much a bunch of 200 hitters there. So, I just don't know. It feels like he could really prove anything. There was a little time there where Stanton got a little hot for a while, a little bit. Actually, got over 200, but then that blemish went away, and then he was back under 200 as usual there. So. I just think it's a case of, I'm sure he legitimately wants to see his family, but I think he also looks at this team and says, well, I don't know if there's much I could do with these guys, improve them, and, why go through all the grief? I know it's a job, and so you like to be on the road, and, he seems like he has a relationship with Boone there, but does he want to take the criticism in the news, of why this team is doing terrible, why they can't hit, why they're not scoring any runs, why it's all the same thing? I don't think it'll be that bad next year because obviously, fingers crossed, you would figure Judge is going to have a normal season. You don't expect a freak injury like that. So the offense probably better by default just with Judge in there. And, of course, some of the young guys, just the tweaks they made to start the season. And, of course, by the midway point, eventually getting Jason Dominguez in there. And then, again, you'll have a much better team, and then maybe it won't be as bad. But, it's still asking for a lot of things to break the right way there. So he just probably doesn't want to deal with it. And, again, I don't kind of blame him. I didn't think he was going to do much anyway. It's more about the players. So now if Cashman, as we'll get into later in the episode, I guess the number 3 hitter in this episode will be Juan Soto, perhaps, the meat and potatoes of that. Obviously, if, let's just say Juan Soto came on before he made his decision, I think it may, inch him back the other way, but of course, he's already made the choice, so whether Juan Soto comes here or not probably doesn't make a difference. So now who can the Yankees get to replace him? I don't know. It's always some former Yankee, former hitter. I mean, to me, I'm not a big believer in the hitting coaches. I believe more in pitching coaches. I think they have more of an impact because with pitching, there's more mechanics involved. You got release point, you got arm angles, you got arm slots, you have strategy, stuff like that. With hitting, it's like, well, what you were doing in college and, the minors, I mean, there's tweaks more or less, but more or less it's going to be the same thing what you do when you get up to the majors. Again, there's going to be slight adjustments. I get that, all that, but either you have it or you don't. That's pretty much it there. There's things you could do, keep the leg down, do a toe tap, keep the hands back. Again, little tweaks of mechanics you can make there. But again, if you don't have it, if you don't have the bat speed, I just don't really see how much the hitting coach is going to make the difference. I just think it's all psychological, it's your environment, all that stuff. Now, pitching coaches, on the hand, I think it's a totally different story. That's why you see pitching coaches usually stay with a team for a number of years. I mean, it's now the third year season with Matt Blake, and you want to go back with Mel Stottlemyre, all those years with Joe Torre before he had and the only reason he left the Yankees because he had some health issues there, but he was with Yankees and Torres for quite a while. Leo Mazzoni and Bobby Cox there with the Braves for a number of years. So pitching coaches usually last long because I just think they have more of an impact on the team. Hitting coaches, they're in and out left and right. There's always new ones. They're always getting hired to get fired there, and you pretty much get a new one almost every season there. So I just don't really put much stock in it. So I'm sure they'll bring someone in there. They'll bring some probably a minor league guru. Would you see Don Mattingly return? Probably not at this point because I know he's a coach with the was the coach with the Toronto Blue Jays there, but he was a previous Yankee hitting coach, and that was way back in 2005. And do you want to come back and take a step back that way? Probably not. It's like taking a step back. I know it's a paycheck, but I don't see that. So they'll probably bring in some former Yankee to come in here. I don't know. Maybe it's like a wild card like Nick Swisher or something. Probably not, but something of that ilk. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So I figure we look at this World Series really quick. I know it doesn't involve the Yankees, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's really the fact that, we look at the teams that are in there, got to the final dance there, and it's probably not what you wanted to see if you're a baseball executive, and probably maybe also a TV executive in terms of, I don't know how many people are excited over the Texas Rangers or the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't know how many Diamondbacks fans there are outside of Arizona, and the same deal with the Texas Rangers there. So, even a team like Houston, obviously, they're also a Texas team, but a lot of people hate Houston, so you'd almost want to tune in just to see them lose there. So, if you're a TV executive, it's probably not the matchup you want. Again, game one is exciting. Doesn't mean it can't be a good World Series. But as I mentioned at the top there, it's not good for your sport when, you have a 90-win team versus an 84-win team there in the last dance. And you look at all the other teams, the good teams that won 99, 100 games are now on the outside looking in. Some of them, got wiped out very early there. And something that baseball may have to revisit as they, this is part of the reconfiguration of the brackets they did last season. They kind of carried it over, and this is something that they've been tinkering with for the past 2 or 3 seasons. But they really didn't make any changes from last season to this season. But you have an opportunity, you have a situation now where a bunch of your teams that did very well, won a division, had a great season, got bounced out pretty early, and again, a couple of situations got completely wiped out. Really without a fight there, and this is not really good for your game because you have 6 months of the regular season, and you want to put an emphasis on winning your division, all that stuff. Well, imagine you go this whole way, you have this great season like the Baltimore Orioles, you have a breakout season, you'll win 100 games, you get your first place in the AL East, you get a first place bye because you're the number 1 seed team, and now you're sitting around for a week. Your hitters getting cold, your pitchers getting a little rusty there, and I know you have simulated games and practices and stuff like that, but nothing like live competition. And then finally, when you go into the next round there, your hitter's gone cold, your pitcher can't pitch the same way, and then you wiped out. It's like, wait a second, how's that a reward? Yeah, I got a few days off there, but now I'm sitting on ice, I'm getting cold there, and now my whole season's done after I had this great regular season, and it's not good for the game. And again, we'll just look at all the teams that didn't make it and how many wins they had. So we had as I mentioned before, the Baltimore Orioles with 101 wins, and they ended up getting wiped out in there. I guess that technically was the second round there, 3-0. So I meant, just probably didn't see that coming. You had Tampa Bay now with 99 wins. Now Tampa did play the first round there because Baltimore won 2 games there, so they they weren't really sitting cold too often. But unfortunately, they ran into the buzzsaw that became the Texas Rangers. They got to the final dance there, and they got eliminated 2-0 in that first round there. Now we look at the Braves, who everyone actually picking them to almost win the whole thing. I mean, they had a great regular season, won 104 games, and I mean, they looked like world beaters. And of course, they get eliminated by the Phillies in the division series, 3-1 there. So again, barely even competitive against a Philly team that won 14 less games than them during the regular season. And last but not least, and probably most surprisingly, the Los Angeles Dodgers with their 100 wins, they got swept 3-0 in the division round to those Arizona Diamondbacks who are now in the World Series. So yes, obviously it's a case of 2 hot teams that got in there, and that's usually what the case is in the playoffs. But it's bad for your sport when you have 1, 2, 3, and if you want to take Tampa's 99 wins, but I'll almost call Tampa a 100-win team. So you have 400-win teams, and none of them are getting close to the World Series there. So it's bad for the sport. Again, doesn't mean it can't be a good, exciting World Series there, but you just don't want that situation to happen. So I think I don't think baseball is going to knee-jerk react to it too much, and I don't know how much you can tweak that to kind of find a middle ground there. I think if it happens 2 or 3 seasons in a row, then obviously fans are going to be just disappointed. It's like, right, well, what was the point of the regular season then? If a great team, really the World Series should be probably Baltimore versus the Braves. I mean, that probably should have been the World Series. Or even if Tampa somehow got in there with the 91 wins, Tampa versus maybe the Braves, something like that, or Tampa versus the Dodgers. That's something you can kind of live with. Now, again, for maybe baseball fans who are just tired of seeing the same 2 teams in there every time. Again, this is the first time in 8 seasons that neither the Dodgers or the Houston Astros will be in a World Series. So, okay, it's good to see some fresh faces in there. But even a team like Houston that won 90 games, okay, they're a 90-win team, but we know Houston. They've been there almost every other year. They're in the World Series. They got Verlander, they got Altuve, you got Bregman. So you're kind of expecting those guys to be in there. So even with less wins, you don't really mind seeing them in there. But if you take Texas, who also won 90 wins, but it's lost a division because Houston beat them in the final game of the year, and Houston had a tiebreaker, you're just kind of it doesn't feel like you're seeing the best matchup possible there. What you're really seeing are 2 hot teams, but you're not really seeing the best possible matchup there. So not something that's good for the game of baseball. So we'll see how it goes. And look, this has happened in football too. And if you're a Giants fan, you remember the last Super Bowl run, they were 8-8, got hot at the right time, and they knock off the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers were 14-2 there. I mean, it was a total mismatch when you look at the actual records, but the Giants were the hot team, and they knocked off a team, the Packers, who were 14-2. So it happens in all sports, but to happen like this where all the teams that won 100 didn't get close to the final round there, it's really not good. So we'll see how baseball wants to monitor that moving forward. And again, if you're a Yankee fan, look, I know if I'd be happy to be in there. If we somehow got in there with 89 or 90 wins, sure. I'm not complaining, and I got nothing against Texas or Arizona. Hey, look, if you're the hot team, you won, you're in there, fine. But it seems like that's what it's all about. Again, getting in there and being the hot team, not necessarily having the best record. And that's why, when House and, basically Brian Cashman were kind of going back and forth whether they should go for it or not at the trade deadline, I think Hal did make the right call by saying, hey, let's just try to get in there, not sell off the pieces like apparently Cashman want to do, because, again, if you just get in there and get hot, that's all it takes. And if you just get Cole in there, which we could do, and this maybe, you figure at that point, Rendon could kind of find it there, get 2 hot pitches there in the playoffs, and maybe someone finally decides to swing a bat, you had an opportunity there. And you kind of felt that a little bit, let's just say Jason and Dominguez didn't get hurt there, and then Judge would have come back at some point there. And, remember that Yankee, when Dominguez made his debut, they swept the Houston Astros in Houston. It's like, all right, well, if they could have kind of captured that and rode that somehow into October, just get a final wild card spot, again, maybe the Yankees could have been one of those 2 teams there. So that's why I would think, if you got somewhat of an opportunity to get into playoffs, always go for it. I don't think they should have traded the whole farm away to bring someone in to do that. I mean, to stay in pack with the team you have, but not sell all the pieces off and just give up on the season. Because as you can see, as with the case for Arizona, I mean they're an 84-78 win team, and they're in the World Series. Well, if you look at the Yankees, who we've bashed them all season, they've been a disappointment, been terrible, been 4th, 5th place the whole season. Well, the Yankees finished 82-80. So Arizona, I mean, as much as we complain about the Yankees and how they finish and all that stuff, Arizona's only 2 games better, only has 2 more wins better than the Yankee team, and they're in the World Series. And yet we consider the 82-win Yankee team a complete failure there. So it just goes to show if the Yankees, just get in there. Who cares about the record? Just get in, find a way to get in there, and then hopefully you get hot and go all the way. Now, there were some comments by Jordan Montgomery, who on some previous episodes, as well as the podcast, which why you should subscribe. I've been showering him with praise, and again, he's been a beast in the playoffs, 4-0 to start. Now, in Game 2, he did take a little bit of lump, so he wasn't terrible, but of course, wasn't as dominating as his first 4 starts during his playoff run there. But, again, so I guess he's not Superman, but overall, having a good postseason for the Texas Rangers. But he did have some comments. They did ask him about the Yankees, but he basically says there's no bad blood, no bad, feelings the way they traded. He kind of understands it, and again, he feels a little bit better now. As a pitcher, he says he works a little better on his preparation. So it seems like he's matured a little bit just on his own. Again, it'd been nice if the Yankees could have captured some of that and have him pitch for the Yankees, but nevertheless. And again, we'll go back. He never really got much of a chance to pitch in the postseason for the New York Yankees. I'll kind of go back quickly with his resume. There's some injuries in there involved, but of course we look back. 2017, it's when he was a rookie. Now, he was on both the Division Series and Championship Series roster there, but never got an opportunity to pitch. I guess they never really needed him, but he was there with the team. 2018 just wasn't involved at all because he went down with Tommy John surgery. And not only did he miss the 2018 season, he missed a whole chunk of 2019. So he did come back in September. I think he threw 4 innings. And so because of that, we didn't have much of a, built up there. They just decided to leave him off the 2019 roster there. Now, 2020, that was the COVID 60 game season there. Now, he did pitch in Game 4. Again, that was against the Tampa Bay Rays. He only went 4 innings. Now, he was able to pitch good enough and get the Yankees into Game 5, which of course the Yankees would lose, unfortunately. But he only pitched 4 innings in that game. And then, of course, 2021. Well, I mean, he was there, but unfortunately, the Yankees only had that 1-game wild card up in Fenway, and that was Cole versus Eovaldi, and Eovaldi beat Cole there. So, obviously, the Yankees didn't go on from there, so there was no need of him. So they only had that really. So all those years with the Yankees, he only had the 1 start, which was in Tampa there. But again, he said there's no animosity. The Yankees let him go like that. And an interesting enough with this year's World Series, as you might show, George Bush, 43rd President George Bush, threw out the first pitch. And if you may remember, I'm going to go back to 2001, when the Yankees played the Arizona Diamondbacks, Game 3, George Bush came to Yankee Stadium. Of course, that was after the whole September 11 attacks, threw out the first pitch in that game. And interesting enough, if you want to go back, that's why we keep all these things on YouTube. Umpire Dale Scott was the umpire of that game, and actually had him on an episode of this show, interviewed him about 2 seasons ago. So scroll back, see umpire Dale Scott. So I will give a little plug to that old episode there if you want to go back and check it out. So for our number 3 hitter, who might be hitting number 3 for the Yankees, is Juan Soto. So we get into the whole thing, as I mentioned at the top. As reported by, I guess it was MLB.com and Sports Illustrated, the Yankees and Padres have had some preliminary talks regarding Juan Soto. So he has 1 year left under this rookie deal, which is arbitration eligible. So what's going to happen is once they get to spring training, whether it's, let's just say he's on the Padres front office and Soto's agent, they're going to have to work out an arbitration, come onto a final number. Or let's say he gets traded to the Yankees, then the Yankees and him are going to have to go through arbitration to find out the number there. So he's owed. He made in 2023. He made $23 million. So it's going to be more than that, which kind of makes sense, with the numbers he put up. So last season he hit 275, 35 home runs, and 109 RBIs. So again, he's going to get paid like a superstar. So if you got $23 million last season, next season it's going to cost the team, whether it's the Yankees or Padres or whoever else. You also worried about the Cubs as well are interested in him. It could be like 28 million. He's going to get a pay bump regardless. So now he's something I think, someone who I think would make sense for the Yankees. Is it's only a little tricky that if you trade him, okay, you got him for a year, but he's going to go to free agency. So in a way, it's good and bad where you don't have to give up too much to get him because, like, hey, look, I'm not going to give up a ton to get this guy because I only have him under one season, and then he's going to go to free agency. He's gone. So it puts the Yankees in some power in that position. But again, only way they could do that is somehow if the Yankees trade for him and then they make a behind the scenes, all right, we'll give you an extension right away and let him go to free agency. But I don't think it's going to happen because 2024, obviously, Ohtani's going to free agency and he's going to get a boatload of money. He's going to get a payday, which basically it's going to bring up the market value for all players. So Soto's not going to be dumb to not get in on that because in 2025 that's going to be Soto's big payday. He's going to be probably the featured free agent there, so I don't think he's going to want to miss out on that unless the Yankees or whoever trades for him just blows him out of the water with an extension deal. Maybe he would consider not going to free agency in 2025, but I think just based on the fact that Ohtani's going to free agency, he's going to get a boatload of money this entering 2024, and then Soto's going to want the same thing going into 2025. So it's going to be a little tricky, but we'll break the whole thing down. So basically, this comes from the Padres want to shed about $50 million from their payroll. And again, they've been kind of going around like drunken sailors lately. Of course, the big deal to Fernando Tatis Jr., and then a couple seasons before that, the big contract, $300 million to Manny Machado, which is still playing. Again, of course, I mentioned Soto made $23 million last season, and he's going to make more than that just with arbitration. And of course, the good numbers he put up. And of course, they made the move for Xander Bogaerts as well. And again, that was kind of the fallout. They actually made a play for Judge, you may recall, last season. Again, both the Giants and the Padres were in play for Judge there. So they've been shelling the money out for them, but they haven't gotten the results. Again, they had a good 2022 run, again, beating the Mets there, but at least making a run there. But again, 2023 for them was a failure. They actually finished with an identical record as the Yankees, 82-80 there. So for all those big hitters and stuff like that, all the money they spent, it didn't fare no better than the Yankees. So you can understand why they're looking to get rid of some payroll there. So now the good point about him, he's not your typical free agent. And again, this is a lot of players been fighting for this over the years, and there's been kind of some of the lockout disputes of, and the Yankees did kind of mess Judge over a little bit, that a lot of these players back in the day would not hit free agency until they're 30, 31, and it'd be tough for them to get a long-term deal because, again, no one wants to be carrying around a 37, 38-year-old. The good news about the Bryce Harpers of the world, and now it's Soto, he's only 25 years old, so he's someone you'd be willing to give a 10-year deal because even at the end of 10 years, he'll only be 36, which, it still could be a top flight player on top of his game. Maybe a little bit slower, maybe a little slow with the bat speed, but still in his prime years there. So, he's someone I wouldn't mind the Yankees giving a long-term deal. Again, just for the fact he's 25 here. So, what's it going to take to get him? Well, initially there were reports that also the Yankees also were in talks with him around last season's trade deadline. But see, with that, the Yankees would have to give up more because then you look at Soto for the second half of last season and then all this season there. So they're going to, the Padres would probably command a bigger name like a Jason Dominguez, for example, because like, hey, look, you guys want to make a playoff run? You're getting Judge back. We'll give you Soto. You have Soto and Judge back to back there. You probably make the playoffs. So it puts the Padres in a position where they could have demanded more last season. This offseason, they can't demand as more, as I mentioned just before, that, this could just be a one-year rental. So I don't think the Yankees are going to give up, a boatload for him. But so it puts the Yankees now. The Yankees are the ones that in a position of power. So who would the Yankees give up? I don't know. It's hard to say. I think Volpe, even though he's been good for the Yankees, I just think his stock is down a little bit just because, again, the batting average is so low. If let's just say he hit like 270, 280 and then put up to 2020 and then what we saw with the defense, I think, he would at least be someone more attractive to the Padres. I don't know if the Padres are really wowed by him. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. They probably would like Dominguez, but I don't think the Yankees are going to be willing to give him up. I know right now he's on the shelf with this recovering from the Tommy John surgery, but him, you're not looking to play till July. Again, I think if they included Dominguez and a boatload and some other guys there, I think the Padres would go for it. I just don't think the Yankees are going to want to give up Dominguez, who's only 20 years old, and then for what could very well be a 1-year rental for Soto there, because Soto, again, he's going to go for free agency in 2025. So it puts the Yankees in a position where maybe they can only give up, Volpe and maybe a couple of pitching prospects, and maybe then the Padres would bite at that. Is that the best package out there? It's hard to say. I mean, the Cubs are involved, and I'm sure other teams are going to look at it involved as well. But again, I think he'd be, obviously perfect fit for the Yankees. The fact that he's a left-handed bat, which the Yankees desperately need, and he's a left fielder, which the Yankees haven't had in like years. An everyday left fielder, the Yankees could slot in there. So he would fit the bill there. I'd be, if it's if only for 1 year, I'd almost be willing to give up Volpe. I like Volpe, but if it's just Volpe and a couple of pitching prospects to get Juan Soto, just even if it's for 1 year, I'd go for that. Again, I like Volpe, but he's not Derek Jeter. He's not a keeper in that way. I don't think Volpe's Robinson Cano. So I think Volpe is expendable in that thing. I just don't think the Padres are going to want a lot more for him, because you just look at the batting average, it's not that impressive there. But just imagine having a lineup. We have Soto and Judge back-to-back there. Just that alone, it'll be a wrecking crew. And staying on front office news, SNY's Andy Martino reports that the Yankees put Ben Rovette and Kyle Higashioka on the trading block, which kind of makes sense. I mean, the writing's on the wall with that when they brought up Austin Wells last season. And Wells, again, a small sample size, but was impressive. 70 at-bats, hit .229, 16 hits, 4 of those 16 hits were home runs, so 25% of those hits were home runs with 13 RBIs. And, respectively, seemed decent behind the plate. And Carlos Rodon, I mean, his only 2 really good starts for the Yankees was with Wells behind the plate, so it seems like he can handle a frontline starter like that. And, again, he's only 24 years old. Obviously, he has the options. And Ben Rovette, not that much older, 26, but we saw Rovette in the sample size. I mean, he's okay, but not someone, you can afford to let go of him. And, of course, Higgy, we love him. He's been around here, but he is what he is. He's a backup catcher there, and a good veteran backup catcher, quality backup catcher. I'm sure some team might want to give up something for him, and there's not room for anybody, because, we've got Trevino coming back from his injury, and 2022, this guy was an all-star, and, again, he was kind of hurt last season, so not really fair on him, but he is a decent player. He's the better catcher of all 4 of them, so you're going to have Trevino there as a starter, and Wells as a backup, and, of course, Wells a left-handed bat, too, there, so it all makes sense. So, I definitely would see very well Rovette and Higgy probably getting shipped out somewhere. And speaking of free agency, of course, Yankee are looking at Yamamoto, again, the 25-year-old Japanese import. Kind of featured him a couple of episodes ago, but they're speculating with the posting fee and everything else, going to at least cost around $200 million. So, getting back to Soto before that, that's going to probably weigh heavily on, if the Yankees were going to, bring Soto in here or not. I mean, obviously, you drop $200 million in this guy, maybe you're going to be less hesitant to want to give out a big contract to someone else. You can do both because of the New York Yankees, but we'll see how it goes there. But again, if they do, if there's some options of who they want to bring back, I'd rather see someone like Yamamoto versus bringing back Severino or even Montos on a 1-year deal. I think Montos I never want to see him again. He'll have success with him. Severino, you like him because he came up as Yankee, but look, we know what he is. I mean, he's very good, but he's always hurt here. So I would never give him more than 1 year. But again, if you look to throw money at somebody, I'd rather just bring in someone fresh, 25 years old, Yamamoto, have him in here versus, again, taking a flyer on the cheap with Severino. Maybe Severino has upside there where, again, you get him on a deal. But, why mess around? Why play around? Get Yamamoto in here. And then you're looking at your front 3 being Cole, Rendon, hopefully, change the error of his ways, and the Yamamoto number 3. And, of course, Nestor Cortez coming back. And that's a pretty good established front 4 if they all stay healthy. I guess we'll say goodbye this season to a couple of longtime managers, Tito Francona of the less recently Cleveland Guardians, and of course Dusty Baker, most recently of the Houston Astros. And I guess, luckily for him, kind of things with H.J. Hinch getting fired there because of the whole cheating scandal. He was a last-minute replacement as a Houston Astros manager, and then last year getting a World Series ring with him. He's been kind of a compiler, hang around a little bit like that, nevertheless, but look, whatever, almost like goes out on a high note. So you want to say, kudos to them. Francona, same thing. Good guy, ran baseball, even though he managed the evil Red Sox that beat the Yankees a couple times in 2004 there. But nevertheless, the reason why Francona is worth mentioning is that now for candidates, Cleveland is looking at Yankees bench coach Carlos Mendoza as a possible replacement, and because Mendoza got a lot of face time this season from all the times that Boone got thrown out, and of course the most infamous one, the called strike 3.